I was under the hood of a black Escalade when I heard my name over the intercom. Another client drop-off, probably some Range Rover with a check engine light. I wiped my hands on an old rag and stepped out of the bay. My name's Ryan Dawson. I'm 45 years old, born and raised in Lexington, Kentucky. I run Dawson Auto Services, the best damn shop in town. 15 years ago, I was fixing rust buckets in my dad's two-car garage. Now, my shop handles everything from Teslas to Porsches, and we've got a 6-week waitlist. But none of that success prepared me for what was coming. I met Claire at a 4th of July event 18 years back. She was working the food tent, handing out lemonade with that quick little laugh she had. I was elbow deep in a busted Civic someone crashed into a ditch and just showed up for a burger. We talked for an hour straight and I didn't even realize the fireworks had started. We got married a year later. Built our life from scratch. 2 kids, Eli, now 16, built like a linebacker and already breaking school records in track. And Zoe, 14, sharp as hell, always got her nose in some science journal or math competition prep book. Claire stayed home when they were little, then picked up some part-time work at a local boutique once Zoe hit middle school. Life was busy, yeah, but it felt good. I worked long hours, sure, but I was doing it for them, so we'd never struggle like my folks did. Then about a year ago, something shifted. At first, it was little stuff. Claire started making snide comments when I got home late. Not full-on arguments, just stuff like, "Don't bother reheating your dinner. I already threw it out," with that cold smile. Or she'd say, "Maybe if the shop didn't need you so much, your kids would get to see their dad more than once a week." I thought it was stress. Teenagers, bills, the house always needing something. She started pulling away. Less talking, barely touching me anymore, sleeping with her back turned every night. I kept telling myself it'd pass, that we were just going through a rough patch. I mean, 18 years, of course things get stale, right? But even when I tried planning date nights or taking a weekend off, she acted like I was a stranger in my own damn house. Always tired, always busy. What I didn't know, what I was too damn blind to see, was that Claire wasn't just pulling away. She was already gone, and someone else had taken my place. It started with the heels. Claire never used to wear heels unless it was some formal event or a wedding, but suddenly she's clacking around the house on a Tuesday like she's heading to a gala. Hair curled, fresh makeup, tight jeans she hadn't worn in years. I came home from the shop one night and caught her slipping into a new blouse. Still had the tag hanging off it. "Going somewhere?" I asked, hanging up my keys. She barely glanced at me. "Girls' night. We're just grabbing a few drinks downtown." I nodded, trying to keep it casual. "Didn't know you were going out. I told you last week." She didn't. I know she didn't, but I let it slide. Week after week, it kept happening. New perfume, new clothes, nights out, and every time I asked who she was with, she tossed out names I hadn't heard in years. "Oh, I ran into Lindsay at the store. You remember Lindsay, right? We just reconnected." Claire couldn't stand Lindsay in high school. One night I walked in from the garage, late again after a Range Rover job ran long, and saw her standing in the kitchen. Her back was to me, phone in her hand, and I swear she was smiling. Not just smiling, grinning like a teenager reading flirty texts. As soon as she heard my boots on the tile, she jumped, turned the phone face down on the counter like she was hiding it. I leaned on the island. Who was that? She didn't miss a beat. Just Zoe. We were talking about her math club thing. Zoe was upstairs doing homework. "You sure? Looked like you got caught doing something." She spun around fast. "Jesus, Ryan. Don't start this." "Start what?" "The suspicion. The jealousy. I'm allowed to have private conversations. You don't own me." I stepped back, hands up. "I didn't say I did. But hiding your phone like that? Come on." She grabbed her purse and stormed out the front door without saying another word. Later that night, I was in the den watching a game when Eli walked in. He stood there awkwardly, like he was debating whether to say something. "Dad." "Yeah. Is everything okay with you and Mom?" I muted the TV. "Why would you ask that?" He shrugged. "You guys don't really talk anymore. And she seems, I don't know, different. Angry all the time." I sat up, rubbed the back of my neck. "We're fine, bud. Just going through a rough stretch. Grown-up stuff, all right?" He nodded, but I could tell he wasn't buying it. That night, I laid in bed staring at the ceiling while Claire scrolled through her phone beside me. Screen tilted away. I felt the distance like a wall between us. Something was off. I wasn't stupid, but I also wasn't ready to jump to conclusions without proof. I didn't want to be that guy, the husband who accuses his wife of cheating just because she's acting weird. So I waited. I watched. Every night she went out, every time she put on a new outfit or answered a text a little too fast, I tucked it away in my mind. I started noticing how she'd leave her phone face down all the time. Lock screen changed. Password updated. She even had that fake calmness in her voice, like she was rehearsing how not to sound guilty. I caught her whispering once behind the laundry room door, and when I walked in, she fumbled the phone so bad it hit the dryer. Still, I didn't say anything. Not yet, because if I was going to ask the question that was chewing a hole through my chest, I needed to be damn sure of the answer. I woke up before my alarm. Something about the silence felt too sharp, too still. Claire was dead asleep next to me, curled up with her back turned like usual. Her phone was on the nightstand, screen facing up for once. Then it buzzed. I glanced at it without moving. One buzz, then two, then three, all within seconds. And there it was, clear as day. A message preview lit up the screen. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Same place as last time." My stomach dropped. I stared at those words like they were in another language. My hands went cold, heart started pounding. I wanted to grab the phone, chuck it across the room, scream, shake her awake and demand answers. But I didn't. I lay there, frozen, breathing through my nose, trying not to lose it. I don't even know if she noticed. She just shifted a little and pulled the covers tighter. I stared at the ceiling until the sun broke through the blinds. At the shop that day, I couldn't focus on a damn thing. I misdiagnosed an oil leak, forgot to order parts, snapped at one of my guys for dropping a socket wrench. My mind was stuck on that message, same place as last time. How many times? How long? How stupid had I been? I thought back over the last few months. The nights out, the perfume, the clothes, the cold shoulder. All those little things I'd brushed off like they didn't matter. They weren't little at all. They were signs. And I'd ignored every damn one of them. And now I had proof. Not just a feeling. Not just a gut punch. A message from someone who clearly wasn't just a friend. By the time I got home, Claire was already there. She didn't say much, just mumbled something about her head hurting and went straight to the bedroom. Door closed. Lights off. I sat at the kitchen table for an hour, staring at my coffee mug. Not drinking, just thinking. Then I grabbed my phone and called Alan Thompson. Alan's been my lawyer for years. Handled the business contracts when I expanded the shop. Trusted him more than most. "Ryan, what's going on?" I didn't sugarcoat it. "Claire's cheating. I saw a message this morning on her phone. It was clear." He exhaled hard. "You sure?" "Positive. And I need to know what my options are." "First things first," he said. "Don't confront her yet. You need more than a message preview. Start documenting everything. Dates, times, behaviors. Get a private investigator if you can swing it." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "Already thinking about it. And change your passwords," he added. "Bank accounts, emails, anything tied to the business. You need to lock everything down." That night, after Claire passed out with a fake headache and fake guilt, I stayed up and went through all our shared logins. Changed everything. Emails, security codes, cloud backups. I wasn't going to give her a damn inch if this thing blew up. Then I ordered a basic camera setup from the shop supplier. Discreet, motion activated. Told her the next day it was for safety. "Zoe's home alone after school sometimes," I said. "Not worth the risk these days." She nodded too fast. Didn't ask a single question. Didn't even care where I put them. One in the living room. One near the hallway. One facing the garage door. I told myself I was just protecting the house. But the truth? I was done second-guessing. If she was gonna lie, I needed to be ready when it all came crashing down. The next morning, I drove straight to a guy named Rick Henson. Private investigator. Alan had recommended him. Ex-cop, sharp as hell, no bullshit. We met in the back office of his building. Walls lined with manila folders and a faint smell of burnt coffee. "I need you to follow my wife," I said, no hesitation. Rick leaned back in his chair. "You think she's stepping out?" "I don't think," I said. "I know. I just need proof." He asked for the usual photos, schedule, make and model of her car. I gave him everything. Her usual hangouts, the new boutique where she worked part-time, the gym she suddenly cared about again. He scribbled notes like he'd done this 1,000 times, then looked up. "You want full surveillance? Photos? GPS logs? Timestamps? All of it." That night, Claire came home late again. Something about an inventory delay and traffic. I didn't even argue, just nodded and watched her toss her heels into the hallway like she hadn't been out seducing someone 2 hours earlier. She smelled different, not like the rose-scented stuff she used to wear. This was musky, strong. A man's cologne, one I sure as hell didn't own. She walked past me like I was furniture. 3 days later, Rick called. "I've got something for you," he said. She met with a guy outside a hotel off Richmond Road. They were there for over 2 hours. Same car both times. Same guy. "You get his plate?" "Already ran it." Mark Hansen. Sales rep. Drives a gray BMW, lives up near Georgetown. Ring a bell. Yeah, it rang. Mark Hansen had been sniffing around my shop a few months back, trying to pitch some premium auto parts line. Smarmy, flashy type. Too many teeth in his smile. Claire met him once during a lunch drop-off. She laughed at all his stupid jokes like he was some damn celebrity. "You sure it's him?" I asked. "Positive. I've got photos. Want me to send them over?" "No," I said, jaw clenched. "Print them. I want a folder." Over the next week, Rick stayed on her. She met Mark 3 more times, 2 hotel visits, 1 dinner in some out-of-the-way place in Frankfurt. Same pattern every time. She'd leave the house dressed like she was headed to church, come back smelling like cheap aftershave and guilt. I kept my mouth shut. One night, I was working on a Dodge Ram in the garage when Eli came out, hand stuffed in his hoodie pocket. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Yeah, shoot." He kicked a socket across the floor without meaning to. "Is Mom cheating on you?" I froze. My hand was halfway under the hood, but my chest burned like I'd been sucker punched. "Why would you ask that?" He shrugged, eyes on the ground. "She's always gone. She never talks to you. And she doesn't look at you like she used to." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw myself at 16 trying to hold something together that already broke. "I don't know what's going on yet," I said, "but I'm handling it. You just focus on school and sports, all right?" He nodded, but he didn't believe me. Can't blame him. A few days later, Rick dropped off the folder. Thick stack photos, time logs, call records, text transcripts. Claire's entire double life laid out on my kitchen table like a crime scene. She'd been seeing Mark for months. They weren't just hooking up. They were planning things, weekends, trips, the future. One message even mentioned my name. "He's too distracted with the shop to notice anything. We're in the clear." "No, Claire, you're not." I waited until the clock hit 10 that night. The house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the old clock ticking above the doorway. The folder sat on the table wide open. Photos, call logs, receipts, everything laid out like evidence in a murder trial. When Claire finally walked in, her heels hit the hardwood like nails in a coffin. "Hey," she said, voice too casual. "Sorry, I'm late. We had an inventory issue at the store again." I didn't move. "Who's we, Claire?" She paused, halfway out of her coat. "What do you mean? You and Mark Hansen?" The color drained from her face. "What are you talking about?" I pointed at the table. "Go ahead. Take a look." Her eyes flicked over the photos. One of her and Mark holding hands outside the hotel. Another of her climbing into his car. Then the phone records, calls made at midnight, text logs with his name plastered across them. She froze, mouth half open. "Where did you get this?" Does it matter? I said, voice low. You've been lying to me for months. Ryan, listen. It's not what it looks like. I slammed my hand on the table. Don't insult me with that line. She jumped back. Okay, okay, she said, hands shaking. Yes, I was seeing him, but it's not God. I didn't mean for it to happen. I just stared at her, jaw locked. How long? She hesitated. A few months. Try again. Her voice cracked. Since early spring. Almost a year then. I laughed, bitter and sharp. You were sleeping with another man while I was busting my ass 12 hours a day to give you this life. Tears started streaming down her face, but I felt nothing. I was lonely, Ryan, she said. You were never home. You cared more about that damn shop than you did about me. Mark, he listened. He made me feel appreciated. Appreciated. I stepped closer. You blew up our family for some salesman who buys discount perfume and fake affection. Stop, she whispered. No, you don't get to cry and play victim now. You lied to me. You lied to our kids. You turned our marriage into a joke. She wiped her face and looked at the floor. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I shook my head. You meant every second of it. Every lie, every text, every night you came home smelling like someone else's life. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Just silence. Finally, I said it. We're done. Her eyes shot up. Ryan, please, don't do this. We can fix it. I'll stop seeing him. I'll go to therapy. I cut her off. No, you made your choice months ago. I'm just catching up to it. She broke down completely then, sobbing, clutching the edge of the counter like it was the only thing keeping her upright. But I didn't move to comfort her. Not this time. I walked past her, grabbed my phone, and started scrolling through my contacts. Who are you calling? She asked, voice shaking. My lawyer. That shut her up fast. I left her standing there, surrounded by the evidence of her own betrayal. Went out to the porch, the cold air hitting my face like a slap, and dialed Alan's number. It rang once before he answered. Alan, it's Ryan. He sounded half asleep. Everything all right? It's done, I said. She admitted it. I'm filing for divorce. He paused for a second, then said quietly, I'll start the paperwork first thing in the morning. I hung up, leaned against the railing, and stared out at the driveway. Her car sat there gleaming under the porch light, spotless as always, like nothing was wrong. But everything was. Inside, I could hear her crying. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel sorry for her. I just felt empty. Claire didn't waste time. 2 days after I told her it was over, I got a notice from her lawyer, Amanda Foster, big-name divorce attorney out of Louisville. Fancy website, courtroom reputation, and a smile that probably cost more than my first truck. Alan and I sat across from her in the first mediation meeting. Claire showed up in a beige blazer, acting like she was the damn CEO of something. No tears, no regret, just strategy. Amanda started off sweet. Too sweet. We're here to make sure Claire receives fair compensation for the years she dedicated to supporting this marriage and your growing business. I almost laughed. She supported it by sleeping with a guy who tried to sell me brake pads. Amanda ignored me. Claire is requesting spousal support, half of the marital assets, and 25% of Dawson Auto Services, as a reflection of her contributions. Alan didn't flinch. Claire signed a prenuptial agreement in 2004. Clause 8 protects all business assets. And we have documentation that she has not been involved in any day-to-day operations or strategic planning. Amanda smiled like she knew it was coming. That agreement is outdated. Claire helped raise 2 children while Mr. Dawson worked 12-hour shifts. That allowed the business to thrive. A judge will consider that. Claire just sat there, hands folded in her lap like a damn victim. I looked right at her. You really want to do this? You want to drag our kids through court because you got bored and cheated? She flinched, but Amanda jumped in. Let's keep this civil. This is about fairness, not blame. Bullshit. Over the next few weeks, it all got uglier. Court dates, depositions, statements, Claire started showing up with pages of proof that I was an absent father, too busy chasing profit to notice my family falling apart. She made it sound like she had no choice but to find connection somewhere else. Alan kept hammering the prenup. He brought in financial statements, security footage, the PI's full report. The receipts didn't lie. Claire had been using shared accounts to pay for hotel rooms, gas, and God knows what else. I started feeling like the ground under me was splitting open. Every court date, every new demand, every time I saw my kids get pulled aside for questions, it chipped away at me. But I stayed focused on them. Eli started skipping workouts. Zoe barely spoke at dinner. I sat them down one night, just the three of us. I know this sucks, I told them. And I'm sorry, but we're gonna be okay. I promise. Zoe's voice was barely above a whisper. I just wanted to be normal again. I didn't have the heart to tell her that ship had already sunk. Back in court, Claire started slipping. The more she pushed for control of the business, the more obvious it became she didn't understand a damn thing about how it worked. She claimed she helped with marketing. Alan showed emails proving I'd hired 2 agencies over the last 5 years. She said she ran payroll once. Alan pulled payroll logs. Never her name. Eventually, the judge started getting sharp with her. Even Amanda looked like she was losing patience. That's when I started breathing again. Because the truth was on paper now. And no matter how many tears Claire worked up or how many sob stories she fed the courtroom, the facts were solid. She broke our marriage. She betrayed our family. And now she was trying to profit off it. Not on my watch. 2 weeks after the last hearing, I got a call from Greg Simmons, my accountant. Solid guy. Straight shooter. But his tone that morning told me something was off before he even said a word. Ryan, he started, hesitant. We've got a problem with one of your accounts. I was in the shop office mid-paperwork. What kind of problem? It's the education fund. The one set up for Eli and Zoe. My stomach tightened. What about it? It's empty, he said flatly. 90,000 gone. For a second, I thought I misheard. Empty? What the hell are you talking about? He sighed. The withdrawals started about 4 months ago. Big ones, 5, 10, 15 grand at a time. The account was linked to the joint household login. Claire had access. I gripped the edge of the desk so hard my knuckles turned white. You're saying she took it? I can't say that for sure, he replied carefully. But her name's on every authorization. I've got the statements if you want them. I didn't even let him finish. Email them. Now. When I opened the file, my pulse went through the roof. Every withdrawal was neatly spaced out. Each note labeled personal transfer or emergency use. It was deliberate, calculated. She didn't just cheat. She stole from her own kids. I slammed my fist against the desk, sending pens flying. The guys in the garage must have heard it, but I didn't care. I called Alan first. You're not going to believe this, I said through my teeth. The education fund's drained. Greg traced it to her. Send me the records, he said immediately. We'll add it to the case. This changes everything. But I wasn't done. I needed answers. I called Rick next. Rick, it's Ryan. You still got that financial tracker you used for her case? Yeah, why? I want you to dig again. I think she's been hiding money. Rick didn't hesitate. Send me what Greg sent you. I'll cross-reference everything. By the next morning, he had results. Your wife, sorry, ex-wife-to-be, transferred nearly 60 grand to a secondary account under her name. The rest scattered across Venmo, cash withdrawals, and some boutique transactions. Looks like she was spending it to impress her boyfriend. I clenched the phone so tight my hand went numb. She used my kids' college money to play sugar mama for that bastard? Looks that way. I hung up and drove straight to Alan's office. Slid the evidence folder across his desk so hard it nearly flew off. She didn't just wreck our marriage, I said. She robbed her own damn family. Alan flipped through the pages, face tightening. This is theft, Ryan. Plain and simple. She's going to have a hard time explaining this to a judge. The next hearing, Amanda tried to spin it. Said Claire had temporarily borrowed the funds during emotional distress. That she planned to return it. I leaned forward, jaw tight. You don't accidentally move 90 grand and spend it on hotels and handbags. The judge's expression shifted. For the first time, I saw Claire panic. Real panic. She kept glancing at the paperwork, then back at Amanda, like she wanted to melt through the floor. The courtroom was dead quiet when the judge spoke. Mrs. Dawson, this evidence is highly concerning. You will need to provide full documentation and receipts for all expenditures, or this will escalate beyond family court. Claire's voice cracked. It was a mistake. I didn't think. Yeah, I said under my breath. That's your problem. When we walked out, Alan looked at me. She's losing ground fast. Keep your head straight, Ryan. We're almost there. Almost there. But at that point, I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice. For Eli, for Zoe, for every ounce of trust she'd burned to ash. And I was ready to take it all the way to court. 2 weeks later, we walked into the courthouse one last time. I'd barely slept the night before. Not from nerves, just tension. My body was wound tight, like a coiled spring waiting to snap. Claire sat across the aisle with Amanda, dressed like she was headed to Sunday service. Light blue blazer, pearl earrings, soft curls pinned up like she hadn't spent the last year destroying everything she touched. She didn't look at me, just whispered something to Amanda and shuffled her papers around like it would change the outcome. The judge walked in, stern and tired, like he'd seen too many broken families in this room. He didn't waste time. Let's begin. Amanda launched into her pitch, polite but sharp. She painted Claire as a devoted mother who sacrificed her own career for the family, claimed she deserved spousal support and a reasonable stake in the business she supposedly helped grow. Mrs. Dawson's emotional stress and lack of financial independence were created by Mr. Dawson's obsessive work habits and absence from the home, Amanda said. Her client simply wants a fair settlement. Alan stood up slowly, calm, focused. Your Honor, he said. We've submitted documentation outlining multiple extramarital meetings with Mr. Mark Hansen, supported by timestamps, hotel receipts, and phone records. In addition, we've provided verified bank statements showing unauthorized withdrawals from the Children's Education Fund, totaling $90,000. The judge nodded. I've reviewed the materials. Amanda shifted in her seat. Claire kept her face still, but her jaw tightened. Alan continued. The prenup protects all Dawson Auto Services assets. Mrs. Dawson had no role in operations, marketing, or payroll. These claims are unsupported. Then he handed the final packet over. Also included Venmo transactions and boutique purchases directly tied to the misappropriated funds. The room got quiet, the kind of quiet that suffocates. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Dawson, do you have any explanation for these expenditures? Claire cleared her throat. I was going through a difficult time. I never meant to cause harm. Did you intend to repay the education fund? The judge asked. Her voice was paper-thin. I planned to, eventually. Before or after the boutique charges and hotel stays? Amanda tried to cut in, but the judge held up a hand. Counselor, I've heard enough. He turned to me. Mr. Dawson, do you wish to retain full custody of the business and remaining assets under the prenup terms? Yes, Your Honor. He looked back at Claire. Based on the evidence, the affair, the financial misconduct, and the violation of trust, this court finds no basis for awarding spousal support or business equity. The prenuptial agreement remains valid. Final judgment will reflect these terms. Claire's face crumbled. She blinked like she was trying to process what just hit her. Amanda leaned over, whispered something. Claire shook her head. She stood up without asking permission, tears already spilling down her face. I gave my life to this family, she said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. I made one mistake. One. And now I lose everything. The judge didn't flinch. This hearing is over, Mrs. Dawson. She looked at me like I was supposed to say something, like I owed her comfort. I gave her nothing. She stormed out of the courtroom, heels echoing down the hallway, mouth tight like she was holding back a scream. Amanda followed, flipping through papers like she'd already moved on to her next client. I sat there, still, Not relieved. Not victorious. Just drained. Alan packed up the folders. You did everything right, Ryan. It's over now. I nodded, but my mind wasn't in that courtroom anymore. It was with Eli, who'd stopped smiling since all this started. With Zoe, who asked if college was still possible even though her fund was gone. The judge gave me the win, but the damage? That was permanent. I walked out of the building into gray skies and cold air. Took a long breath. I wasn't thinking about Claire. I was done with her. I was thinking about my kids. About fixing what she tried to break. That was all that mattered now. 2 years later, I was under the hood again. But this time, Eli was right beside me. Pass the torque wrench, I said. He didn't miss a beat. Already in your hand, old man. Smartass. The shop had grown. 2 more bays, 3 new hires. A waiting list long enough to make dealerships sweat. Business was good. But this part? Working next to my son, watching him get his hands dirty the way I did with my dad. That was something else. Zoe had just sent in her final college application the night before. Full ride offers were already rolling in. Girl made the honor roll every semester and still found time to help her friends study. Strong, focused, way more mature than I was at her age. They'd both been through hell and somehow came out stronger. Julie stepped into my life like she'd always belonged there. Owned her own landscaping business. Tough as nails. Didn't flinch when I told her the whole truth about Claire. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Sounds like she gave up something good." Julie didn't need saving. She didn't expect me to fix anything. She just met me where I was. And that's what I needed. She came to family dinners. Zoe adored her. Eli didn't say much at first, but when he asked her to help with a school project, I knew he was in. The house felt like a home again. As for Claire, last I heard, she was renting a 1-bedroom off New Circle, working the front counter at a furniture store. Mark ghosted her not long after the court ruling. No surprise there. I didn't hate her. I didn't think about her much at all. She burned the bridge, then set the river on fire behind it. But I wasn't looking back. One night, after we closed the shop, Eli and I stood outside watching the sun drop behind the trees. He leaned against the hood of a '72 Chevy we'd been restoring. "You ever think about her?" he asked. I shook my head. "Not anymore." He nodded once. "Good." We didn't need to say anything else. Because we'd survived it. And we'd built something better out of the ashes. Do you think Claire deserved a second chance? Or did Ryan make the right call ending it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're still listening, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories like this one.